Welcome to our first developer conference. We're really excited about it. I am Gavin, I'm the co-founder and CEO.
And I'm Mark, I'm the co-founder and CTO. And you can tell I'm the technical one because I'm pale and pasty and Gavin is a tan.
Mark, in fairness, is the brains of the operation and I'm just the good looks, so we're good. We're really excited about this, to launch this today, and we really want to thank you for being here with us on this. This is the first time we've had all of our customers together under one roof. And we've been on a great journey so far. And we want to thank you for being such awesome customers, for helping for your help in building what we've built. And we do love being part of this. We do love helping you build great products for your own customers and being part of that movement.
It just makes us so happy to see all the amazing things that you guys are building with what we're doing.
We get a bit of stick about it sometimes, but I think it's a really good name. We picked it. It was, when you Googled for Learnosity, you kind of said, "Did you mean curiosity?" It was completely empty on Google, and we kind of found out we own that name, and that's pretty great. Here's a picture of Mark and I around the time we founded the company. The years have not been kind. I do want to explain the moustache. It was November, and that was for charity. That was not a fashion choice. I don't know about Mark's yellow shirt though. He looks about 12. It's kind of weird.
I think I look a solid 13 there.
Yeah, okay, very good. At the time we were working literally from my parents' shed in Ireland, literally out the back in a shed there, and I worked there for about 5 or 7 years before we kind of could afford an office. And this whole event is it was something. It makes us take stock and realise just how far we've come, and we're kind of really proud of that, and we really want to thank you for being such a vital part of that story. I can't believe it's been 10 years. Mark has been an amazing co-founder. I cannot believe he puts up with me, but it's gone pretty well, and we want to thank all the staff, past and present, for being part of that journey. So we usually start with the mission, and over the 10 years, a lot has changed. The mission has pretty much been constant. We decided we wanted to make a difference in education through technology.
Yeah, we're both really passionate about technology. That's the thing that we really love, and I think we kind of got into education. Key piece of I started working with Gavin when I needed a little bit of extra cash, having had my first child, and we started working together. That was about 13 years ago. But that was what drove us. So it was always kind of a reason to drive for education, to have better education for my kids. There's a real personal connection there. Yeah, and I was something I was very passionate about. I'd lectured in university, and just something that I lived and breathed and really kind of believed in. But that mission really hasn't changed. I mean, the worldwide piece, maybe the megalomania has set in a little bit, but before that we maybe weren't quite as ambitious, but the mission has kind of been constant. But one thing we kind of feel about the edtech industry is that when we speak to people, we kind of find that that mission, that kind of genuinely wanting to improve education, is kind of a common thing that we find. When we go into offices and conferences and so on, we meet you guys. A lot of us, everybody is here, have made the choice to work in education for a reason, believe in this stuff, want to make a difference. And we kind of think it is the most kind of important contribution. A lot of people think it's the most important contribution we can make to society. And it's really great to work with you guys who kind of also believe that. We want to work with you, and we want to listen to you and help create your ideas, and that feedback loop from you is really important, and we're taking on those bigger tasks to enable you to do what you want to do. Yeah. So that mission comes down to a couple of things. The reason why we do this, we do believe it's a huge, we have a huge opportunity to make a change here, and we think it is the most important thing we can do kind of in society. How we reach the widest audience and cast that net as far as possible is to empower other companies to build products, not to try to build something that we kind of trying to sell to schools. We thought that we'll reach further by powering the entire industry, which we've done reasonably successfully so far. Yeah. And some of that was driven by, in the early days, our need. We didn't have large backing to try to go to every single school in the world. We just didn't have, I think, but what we were good at was technology. And so we focused on the hard pieces that we could solve. And we wanted to solve them and share them with everybody and power the whole industry.
And we are kind of geeks at heart. And that's how we could make a change. That's how we can make a difference. It wasn't through content. It was going to be through technology. So Jeff Bezos from Amazon, somebody we really admire, talks about undifferentiated heavy lifting and how we tend to spend 70% of our time in a business doing stuff that's kind of generic and only spend 30% on the stuff that really is special sauce, where you really make a difference and you really differentiate yourself from anybody else. And what we're really trying to do here is allow you guys spend 70% of your time on stuff that matters, as opposed to 30%. Really focus on the pieces where you can add value, where you can do something better than anybody else, and work on your own special sauce and your own speciality.
Yeah, and that's something that is not unique to us. It's what Amazon do. It's why I expect a lot of the people in this room already using Amazon. It gets us a lot of the base layer, and we want to do that for you and continue to basically flip that equation. So 70% on the core business problems that make your solutions unique, make them your kind of unique selling proposition to make them better. And just focus on that and not waste time.
And we sign up to that philosophy ourselves. You'll see that coming through the presentation a little bit, how we use other people to build this product. And we kind of feel like there's no point in owning technology if you're going to be 3 years behind a competitor who tried to build it themselves. So we decided to build a product that solves some difficult problems for the whole industry, for all education companies. And those kind of reusable components have certain attributes that we really wanted to make.
Yeah. And this is something we use internally to make sure that all of our applications, products, everything we develop has these attributes. We want to keep them powerful, really flexible. That means you can customize them, that you can extend them as well. Not just use what we have out of the box, but use what we have as a starting point to build more on top of that. And we also want to make them really simple to use. So simple to use as an end user and really simple to use as a developer so that you can get there faster, work with the tools, not work against the tools.
So we started off with one question type, audio. And we moved on from there. We have about 65 question types. We do it really, really, really well. We solved a really great problem there. So well that we're kind of known as the question types people, and it's kind of hard almost for people to kind of see us beyond that sometimes. We've really built out a whole platform here. This is kind of platform as a service, and it's a whole suite of infrastructure.
Yeah, and so it's the robust areas of, as we created the ability to author 65 questions, we went from 1 to 65, we had to make it really easy to author those questions for non-developers, for people who know the content. We want everyone to be using their skills to the best of their ability. So making the authoring easy allows the questions to get there quicker, to be created quicker. And then as we captured huge amounts of, or helped deliver huge amounts of assessment, we wanted to make that really easy to get understanding and analysis of that. So we've built out kind of reports and events APIs to allow full access to everything and, again, propel our customers forward.
And all this with a common theme of making it easy for our customers to build out their products. So with that intro done, there's a few things we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about what we've achieved in the last year, the edtech industry in general, and what we've been working on and what's kind of next, with a little sneak preview of what's on the roadmap. And we're going to go through it now. So the year in review. If you go back to the calendar year of 2014, we had 1 million active users. We're really proud of it. It's a really good number. As of today, if you look back 12 months, we have 24 million active users. Google Analytics gives us that number every day, and we look at it. And it just kind of it points to the huge impact that we're making across education, and it's something that we really are proud of in that way. Yeah. You guys have authored 2 million questions in the last 12 months. That's almost twice whatever we had in the database a year ago.
In the previous 3 years, so since we had it.
And we've delivered, at the moment, we deliver about 46 million tests per month. That's a huge number.
So yeah, 46. We were in preparing for this, I was looking at trying to put that in context as to what that means. And 46 million tests every month on average. It's about 18 tests per second every second of the month. So
Some seconds are more than others, right?
well, yeah, you know.
What's our best second so far?
I don't know the answer to that.
Did you not prepare for this?
Not at all.
We were at the Association of Test Publishers conference a few months ago, and we were looking around the room, and we reckoned that we deliver more tests than the entire rest of the industry. I don't think anybody else has. I saw a press release recently from somebody saying they delivered 12 million a year, and that's it's a big number. So it is speaking to the impact we're making, and it's something we're proud of.
And it's speaking to the focus. We're focused on delivering that for everybody. We're not focused on the end-to-end delivery. So we can deliver huge amounts, and it's not alone. It's with all of you delivering those assessments. So you've delivered a huge amount of those.
The team is obviously growing. This time last year, we had about 55 people on the team. That was 45 on the delivery side. We're really kind of developer heavy there. That's a team there. We have 75 people now. We kind of lose count. I have to look at Slack every so often and count the number of users we have on there. We have 75 people, but 60 of those are on the delivery side. That's in a really amazing team of developers, designers, DevOps, product owners, project managers, and support. People who are delivering product every day, about 15 kind of admin and sales and so on.
And it's a key focus. Like one of the things that's really key is our support team. They're all engineers. I think anybody who's dealt with them would know they're really good. It's not, take a ticket, stand in line, and I'll get to somebody who can solve the problem. They can solve problems, and they can escalate stuff very quickly as well, so that you get solutions.
This is kind of by developers, for developers. Mark and I are both developers. Mark's kind of better than me at it, I'm not going to lie. But it is very much by developers, for developers. We talk about B2B, business to business. This is B2D, business to developers almost. But you get a lot done with 60 people on a delivery team. In the last year, we've delivered 450 new features. That's a huge amount, and that number is growing all the time. Next year we'll do 500. So if you sign up today, you're going to get about 1,500 new features over the next 3 years for free as part of your license fee as you go through.
Yeah. And actually, looking at that one, that graph doesn't quite reflect the investment we've put into analytics over the last 12 months. We've put a huge amount into that. So we've been solving some of the core problems behind that, and because they've been bigger problems, there's almost less major features, but I can expect to see a whole lot more functionality and features come out of that as we've built the infrastructure behind it, and we're opening that up to all of our customers. And look, we've also delivered 200 million API requests per month. So
how many is that per second?
Yeah, some number, 80 per second. So, and we've done that while being rock solid the whole year. Like we talk about kind of zero downtime releases. We also talk about not dropping a single request. And we've engineered a system that allows us to do full rolling updates without dropping a single request. And that's been key to our success.
So we're going to talk about the industry a little bit and where we are with that. When we started this 10 years ago, it was just a different market. There was different levels of technology there. People didn't really have the computers in their pockets and so on. And we're seeing now, this is a graph from EdSurge quite recently, talking about the prevalence of broadband in US schools. Still a long way to go. There's still 15 million or so students who don't have access to it. But by God, it's changed in the last 10 years, and this market is moving on, and people are getting broadband, are getting access to technology that they kind of deserve.
Yeah, 10 million change in the last year. Another year, another 8 to 10 million as it starts topping out for the K-12 market. But this is also happening across every other market. Higher ed probably is a bit ahead in terms of candidates having devices and having had them with decent networks for a long time, and obviously corporate as well.
The other thing we notice when we look at the industry is Chromebooks are everywhere now. It's unbelievable. From nowhere, they've come out. There's some figures about sales from the New York Times, but they're absolutely everywhere. This is what we're seeing in our internal numbers. just about taking over from Microsoft as the prominent operating system as we go through, and those lines will cross in this year. Obviously in K-12 more particularly than anywhere else.
Our numbers are slightly skewed to K-12, which is why we're seeing this on the broader industry. Not quite as much, but yeah, definitely in K-12 it's taken over.
I mean, that means that in the 24 million users we've had in the last year, we have 9 million users on Chromebooks, which is kind of phenomenal. But we also have users on tablets and users on mobiles.
Yeah, and I think when we look at some of these things, as I've gone through slides for this, I was thinking, how do we look at this? How do we... And some of the tablet and phone usage, it's not as big until you look at it at raw numbers. Like, that's 1 million students have used Learnosity assessments, questions on phones over the last 12 months, and 2 million have done it on tablets. And I was trying to get my head around what and where they're doing it, because it's not the most practical device to do, large-scale assessment on. And then I was talking to my son. He's just started high school last year, and I'm kind of chatting to him on the way home, and he's like, have you got any homework? And he's like, no, I did it on the bus on my phone. I'm like, okay, this is where it's happening. And look, we do it all the time. You answer long emails. You start an email on your phone. You don't stop it. You don't move to your computer just because it's sitting beside you. I think we've all done it. You end up going, I didn't mean to write a tome on my phone, but you've done it. So,
and as adults, we mightn't just think that people will use phones for homework, but it is a real use case. Is the point.
Yeah.
So it really kind of feels, the edtech industry kind of feels like a confluence of events and a kind of tipping point where it's kind of about to spread like wildfire. And we kind of see a big move from big publishers to edtech products, and a tipping point again between the spend from books into digital products.
Cool. And so this is, some of you might be familiar with this. This is a kind of a standard S-curves that show how technology get adopted over the years. And if we start, the PC on the left-hand side, we can see it's a fairly, long cycle. It's over 20 odd years. As you move further right, we see things getting faster and faster. The internet took, I'm not sure offhand from that graph, but it's getting faster. You can see the curves are getting steeper. And if you look at, the smartphone and 4G on the right-hand side, they're getting even steeper. So this is just how technology is adopted.
And it is a classic S-curve in every case. There's other versions of this graph that are a bit noisy for the slide, but they go back to the automobile, radio, television, and so on. And you can still see an S-curve in adoption. But back then, it was much, much longer for something to be delivered. And that speed of change is increasing. It took 27 years for PCs to reach 70%. 8 years for smartphones, and I think 4G is kind of 3 or 4 years now. Things are moving really, really fast, and from there.
Yeah. And so there's a couple of key things that are driving this. And so there's a level of consumer comfort. When something new comes out, some people, okay, I'll put my hand up, I'll jump straight on and go, I want to play with that. My wife, the opposite. She'll be like, I don't want that, I don't want change, I'm really happy with my Nokia phone. It took me quite a while to get her onto an iPhone. Once she adopted the iPhone, she was like, I love this.
No going back.
No going back. And it's like, no, do you want this old phone back? Never. So, but that's just across the spread of how people, and some of us, how interested they are in technology, what it can do for them. So we see that the whole way along, but consumer comfort's a big driver in this. And then there's also network effects. So having one phone is great, but you really need somebody to talk to. So the more people who have it, the more valuable it is, the more, and we look at this in education, you need network effect of having a computer, having a reliable connection so that you can do something on that computer. And all of these different things are slowly working through everything. And obviously the phone has helped drive that, so there's kind of ubiquitous connectivity pretty much everywhere.
In EdTech, doing your assessment, getting your data, prescribing your learning, and so on, that virtuous cycle in that. But there's also kind of exponential technological advances. Moore's law, that's been around since the 60s, talking about the size of semiconductors and the cost of technology. But it's been applied in a bunch of different ways. We now have ubiquitous technology. We have ubiquitous infrastructure. We build on that ubiquitous infrastructure. And it just kind of, it helps accelerate stuff. WhatsApp got to 450 million users with 32 developers. And that's bigger than any mobile phone company in the world. I mean, and they did that in 2 or 3 years because they built on ubiquitous infrastructure that was already there, smartphones and IP and servers and so on. And that's kind of where we are now in EdTech. We're at that tipping point where you have the ubiquitous infrastructure, you have the technology, people and people are comfortable with it. And obviously you don't have to build stuff that's already there. You can build on top of other people's tech.
So this explains where the S-curve comes from and why it's around. And actually, a key thing I noticed on this is the date. This is nothing new. It's 1962 this graph was published. So not new, but it is consistent and it works all the way through where we're at. I've got innovators, early adopters. From kind of our looking at the industry and what we see broadly, some parts of the industry will be slightly ahead, some parts slightly behind, but broadly we see the education and EdTech industry kind of at that second line where we're moving from the end of early adopters into the early majority. So over here where it's going to start really the acceleration. So we're really excited about that. We can see that coming.
So we really do believe that EdTech is about to kind of explode in terms of that growth, and we're all here to kind of to help with that.
So yeah, over kind of 20 years in technology, that's the one thing I've learned. The only constant is change. There's so much change coming. Unfortunately, Heraclides knew this 2,500 years ago.
That's Heraclides Murphy. He went to school with my dad.
You did?
Yeah.
And look, and this is just a quick example of showing some of the trends I've seen over the 20 years we've been working in technology. Back when I started, it was build a Windows app. Windows was just dominant. And Netscape and Internet Explorer were there. And we've seen the rise of Internet Explorer, where Internet Explorer was 90% of every web app. And people were building, I'm going to ask for a show of hands of anybody, but I won't, of anybody who built an app that only worked in Internet Explorer and had to work out of that trap. I've seen enough of those. Because it was 90%, and it was a good business decision to do it, except if you're looking at change. So Firefox obviously came through. But what the most important thing came in is Apple came in here. And that just changed the landscape for it. It became hugely influential. And it changed. It was no longer Windows. And kind of following hot on the heels of that was Android, which is now the ubiquitous #1 operating system in the world. There's more devices, more Android operating systems than there is Windows globally. So, and now, like kind of current state, we're about here, where there's 3 core platforms, which is the web, fundamentally dominated by Chrome, Android, and Apple. We don't know what's going to happen over the next 5 years, 10 years. We just know it's going to change, and it's going to look, that picture is going to be different again in some way. So, it's important to build to be able to manage change, to continually revisit decisions. If something was good when you made that decision, come back to it 6 months later, 12 months later, 2 years later, and just sanity check it. And even if you have invested a lot of time and effort and work into it, it's important to be able to go, if we were doing it again now, would we make the same decision? And kind of not reinforcing, just because I made that decision before, I can't change that decision. We see that so much across the industry.
Yeah, and as part of a sales process, we see it quite a bit as well, where I kind of think before you start a project, it's a kind of really simple build or buy decision. Usually, it is in Microsoft Excel. You make a return on investment calculation, and you pick the kind of the cheaper one. But once one line of code is written, it's kind of an emotive decision. Somebody has to go back on a bad decision. Oh, I shouldn't have done that. And it becomes like this sunk cost fallacy of something going back. It's like the equivalent of me wearing white jeans just because I bought them for $200 and now I have to wear them. But Claire was there that day. But we deal with that internally a lot, and we have a couple of examples of that.
Yeah, so we do see this a lot, and we challenge ourselves on it every day. A couple of years ago, we took the decision to build our database servers. We looked at RDS. It was available at the time, which is database service from Amazon. It just didn't do some of the things we needed it to do. And so we built it ourselves. Had a great system, would do cross-regional replication, but it was taking up time and effort from our developers to do it, or developers and systems people. So we made a decision to kind of throw away all that work and migrate everything across, and helped us to go faster, helped us to do more, and it's continued to get better. And that's a piece where if we'd stuck with our original decision, which that wouldn't have got better except by us putting our resources and effort into it. So, and we want to be efficient around that. Similarly, monitoring. I hate to think how many monitoring systems we've built, around our quest to get, how do we make sure that we know what we're doing is faster and getting better? We have to measure it. So it's more than 3. So, but we a couple of years ago, actually start last year, we moved across to Datadog. Not saying it's the only one to go for. There's lots of them, but it has evolved, and we threw away the great engineering work we'd done and moved across to that, and it freed us up. There was no longer, support requests of how do we get this metric in, and we've kind of had an explosion in the metrics that we can monitor by just making it easy, and that's probably a key piece. So, and yeah, this is I asked a couple of our customers for quotes around this, and this was one that, Dusty, who couldn't be here because he's actually too busy dealing with all his customers at the moment. He's had such exponential growth. But this is basically a quote. On the back of using Learnosity, he's been able to grow his business exponentially. So that's really focused on the 70% on his core business, content, selling, delivering, great work. So yeah, just it's fantastic.
So we're going to talk about what our recent features have been and what we've done for you guys lately.
Okay, so this is something that we use internally. It's not rocket science, but it is really useful to look at. So we've got high impact, low impact, high effort, low effort. Down here in the corner, if you're spending high effort for low effort or high effort for low impact, I'm afraid your company is not going to be around very long. So there's another curious quadrant down here with the low effort, low impact. This is just slightly dangerous because it's a little bit magnetic, where, and look, we fight that. We look at it. We want to make people aware of it. You look at it, go, oh well, I'll just do this little thing, and it's low impact, or it's low, but it's also low effort. So you kind of kid yourself that you're not wasting that much time. Turns out you end up sucking up a lot of time in low effort, low impact areas. The kind of key area, well, so for a new company, would be working in low effort, high impact areas. This is where you've got a whole lot of big, quick wins that do have big impact. But as any company matures, you find there should be none of those. There should be nothing left in low effort, high impact. And so you end up spending most of your time in the high impact, high effort areas. You've got to do some hard work to get the results. One of the things we like to do is, we focus and spend a lot of time in there. But what we can do by us focusing in here, we can change and move those across so they become low effort, high impact for our customers. So every piece that we develop moves it from having to build it themselves to being really high impact, low effort.
And this should be common sense. It should be logical. But common sense is not so common sometimes. So again, more of the quotes from our customers. We've Jeff here from Centrepoint, formerly Park Inc., talking about how they work with another provider, had let them down. We met them last year around this time at the ASU GSV conference, and they were out to market for back to school in August. And obviously they continue to improve the product and evolve that, but it got them to market really, really quickly, which is, we're delighted with.
Yeah. Thanks, Jeff.
But it's never quick enough, right? So one of the things we are working on over the next year or so is trying to make it even easier for you to get to market, and that includes demos, code samples, SDKs, documentation, that kind of stuff, and this conference, this training we're giving here, the training we're giving in person, the support, all that kind of stuff, to make these implementations easier and easier and quicker and more impactful. Authoring, it's kind of cool. We had a cool story this time last year. We were speaking to a big authoring company. They're saying, "Oh, we deal with 6 of your customers." I'm like, no, you don't. And they started naming customers that weren't on the website that we had no idea they worked with. And they were saying that they were getting about twice the amount of questions written per hour using Learnosity's authoring system as any other authoring system they used. And And that speaks to how much effort we've put into that. But that isn't something we've kind of finished with. It's something we're kind of continuing going on, and making that even easier and even more efficient is something we're working on.
And so there's a lot of stuff that we do behind the scenes that just makes it better, makes it simpler and faster. We spend a lot of time making sure every single request comes back incredibly quickly. Example like the network latency. This sounds like a small thing, 20 milliseconds latency reduction. What we've seen is, because we're delivering 7.5 terabytes per month of highly optimized code, this 20 millisecond latency accounts to 4.4 days of time saved per day, every day of the month. So it's the little things that has significantly high impact, and it continues to have more impact the more it grows. So look, and all the way through all of our APIs is a really good talk. Actually, I'm doing later with Owen, who has all of the detail around performance, where we'll kind of go through some of this in detail. But across all of our APIs, it's kind of on average 20% improvement in performance, and in some scenarios 100% performance in particular scenarios, as we continue to drive forward, make them faster. So, and we've always been focused on security. One of the things that myself and Gav started working on together was around some high stakes assessment, and so we've had that innate focus on security and kind of paranoia around that. So we've made sure from day one, SSL available everywhere, data encrypted at rest. And we've had a kind of philosophy of, we're not sharing any, this is not a data collection ploy. This is we're looking after your data, and we will never share it, without your consent. So you say, share it here, use it here, do that, that's okay, but we will never. And so we signed up to a student privacy pledge on that as well. So, but we're continuing to push that further. So the industry has moved along since 2011. Most sites just had a login screen that was HTTPS. And oftentimes it would drop back to HTTP. So our sites have been available in both HTTP and HTTPS, or all our APIs. We're going to, over the next while, as we work with all our customers, migrate everyone to be HTTPS only, and then enforce that. So most of our customers are already using that. There's a few that we're working with to do that, but it's a key piece. And that's also, actually, again, related to performance. HTTP2, we have to be on HTTPS to use HTTP2, and it makes it faster. It's another performance improvement that we'll get, and simple and easy for your customers, making it faster.
We're currently in 5 Amazon Web Services regions, 3 in the United States, Virginia, Oregon, and California, Sydney, where we both live, and we have some Australian customers. And what might surprise you is Beijing, China, for some Chinese customers. We are focusing a bit more on the EU now. I'm doing the opposite of Brexit. We are going to the EU, and we'll do that later on this year, Q4. Accessibility, it's interesting. So Mark and I met at a thing called a Web Standards Group that Mark had founded in Sydney, which was an advocate group about accessibility on the web.
Yeah, you were a real latecomer to that, weren't you?
That was week 2. I mean, go easy on me. When we met there, we did have a passion for assessment, for accessibility, and we believe this should all be fundamentally accessible. Visual, auditory, motor, cognitive. And we want to go over and above this isn't a compliance thing for us. This isn't like we have to tick a box for 508 or WCAG or whatever that is. This isn't about that. This is about education should be available for everyone, and it's a disgrace if it's not.
Yeah. Actually, and that first project we worked on, it taught us quite a few things along the way. It was for high stakes, but it actually initially started out as what's called special provisions, where people have particular disabilities and they can apply for extra access to do stuff on computer in Australia. So this particular project, we focused on doing just the special provisions version of it, because the core application that was running for it that we weren't involved in didn't have any support for special provisions. So year 1, we did it for about 4,000 students who used special provisions. And it handled things like increasing font sizes, changing colors, extra time, all of this different functionality. That was back in 2005, I think. The following year, we used that one for the entire application. We were asked to replace the whole application, so that was then, instead of 4,000 students, it was 70,000. But I think a key lesson we learned was tackle the hard problems, because then delivering the other one was really easy after that. So it's kind of...
Yeah, and accessibility isn't hard, it's really, really hard. That got more jokes than my more laughs than the other one. Yeah, my white jeans. But it is really, really hard, but it is something we're going above and beyond. You'll see there on the right hand side, what we're doing there in that screenshot is we're auto-generating alt text for math formulae. We're doing that programmatically as we go through. That's not something we had to do. It's something you could have it required authors to type in themselves. But we wanted to go further and further with this stuff. It's something we really are passionate about. It isn't an afterthought for us.
Okay, I'll talk to it. So audio recording was our first question that we did as an API. It was the only piece in our system that used Flash, even at the time when we were trying to move away from Flash. But it stayed in there for a long time, basically because Flash was the only way to get access to the microphone. Since the iPhone came out, there's been a kind of death to Flash. The problem was there wasn't replacements for some key areas, such as getting access to the microphone. Over kind of 4 years, that has slowly been evolved, and we've been tracking it, and we've had proof of concepts working for 4 years, but it hasn't been ready for the prime time because you had to turn on flags, you had to do things in the browser to make it work. But finally, over 2016, a couple of key pieces happened. It all became available in a couple of major browsers, mainly Chrome and Firefox. And then, late last year, Chrome said, we're getting rid of Flash apart from kind of 10 sites. So every single one of our customers who's using this were migrated across to using the new WebRTC audio streams, and it works beautifully. And so we're now doing 2 million audio recordings per month using this. So it's very robust.
Still working on some question types. We added about 6 in the last year. Just trying to cover all those areas. One that we're kind of excited about is the custom question type, which allows you build your own question type and plug it into our system, where you can use this for authoring, item banking, delivery, scoring, reporting, and so on, but to your own item type. But there's a bunch more we've added in there.
That's a kind of core philosophy that we have as well. I've worked through my career using some kind of rapid application development tools and things like that. And one of the hardest points in any of those things is you get kind of the first application up really quickly and you're happy. And then you start wanting to push beyond it and you find you're limited by what you're doing there. And you hang on, I have to actually go backwards, backtrack 6 steps and build all that again. We wanted to make sure that was never the way to go. So we want to kind of get you to third base, but if you want to go the whole way, you keep going and you keep building on top of it and can hook in everywhere.
Simplifying authoring, we have a great authoring system where we really like it, but we wanted to make that available for teachers and academics. We didn't feel like it should stop at professional authors. That means consumer level authoring, consumer product level polish on that. So a lot of complexity in that, how you get every field, you can default them, you can turn them off, you can hide them, you can move them around, you can change the type of input source and so on. And that now allows us to do true teacher authoring. And we are bringing out default templates for teacher authoring over the next couple of months as well.
So default templates, but as well as that, back to my previous point, you can also then take those and customize them, because oftentimes you're closer to the customer, you know what they want, what their special requirements are, and you can still customize it. So you make all of those choices. Activity Builder. Yeah, so this is something we've seen from a number of our customers who have come back and they've kind of had to build some of this. Basically, the ability to select items, to put them together to form an assessment to then allocate to students. So anytime we see something being happen repeatedly, that's hard work, high effort, high impact, that's a core place where we want to make it easier and make it more supportable and continue to evolve and improve it. So even people who have built this, over time would see this becomes simpler, better, more powerful, and they can decide when they want to leverage or use that. And mobile. Part of the reason we've had 1 million students using it on phones is because we've focused on making it work on mobile all the way along. We're continuing to do more to make it easier. All of the performance things are around making it work faster on mobile and making it work faster on everyone else's device. And so being efficient means we don't drain batteries really quickly, things like that. And responsive, just it handles responsive and has done. We're continuing to push more and more on that, as we'll talk about in some of the other sessions. With offline being a key part, as people move on mobiles and Chromebooks, they're moving from a Wi-Fi network at home to a Wi-Fi network at school to a dodgy corner of a campus or a dodgy corner of an office where they don't have Wi-Fi and it's just not as solid. So packaged offline is a great solution where you can build fully offline apps if you have a need for doing that.
We mentioned earlier on how we're starting to store a lot of data. There's a lot of tests, there's a lot of questions, answers, a lot of scores, and we've done really nice reporting for individuals, for classes, for teachers. Sometimes over time, I want to know how Mark did in algebra over the last 6 months. I want to look at sub-scores, that kind of thing. But we wanted to, really analytics we think is the next frontier for us. We wanted to kind of make this data as valuable as possible for you. It's your data, we want to make it valuable for you. And this complex reporting is really, it's really, really difficult to do. It's heavy lifting, but by definition. So for the first time today, you'll see some aggregate reporting. That's, in K-12, it's district reporting. Sometimes in corporate and so on, it might be you've got 20 regional offices or something and you want to report over those. So let's just say you have 67,000 students or 167,000 students in Texas and you want to know how they're doing in algebra versus trigonometry in June versus July, but I want to break that down by race, religion, highest socioeconomic group of the parent, the district they're in, the slicing and dicing this district. That data crunching is really, really difficult. And it's now something we have built in, and we have, in a really kind of broad way, you can now build out those reports. We found a lot of kind of commonality in those requirements. We spoke to a lot of people who had built it themselves over the last 10 years or so, and there's a lot of commonalities, a lot of box and whisker plots that are being built out there. And it's the same kind of stuff with different kind of with a different hierarchy of users thrown in. It's school and district, it's race and religion and socioeconomic group and free lunches or no free lunches. It's different things, but it's the same technical problem. So we're doing that now. We look at a lot of these reports. A lot of them, as I said, are box and whisker reports. This is one from Australia. This is an SAT report. It's basically the same thing, visualized differently. There's a median. There's a mean, median. You've got the 75th percentile, perhaps 25th percentile, those types of things.
And the heavy lifting in these reports isn't how they look, because everyone wants to customize that, and so that's a place where we actually haven't focused. We want to. The hard part is figuring out where an individual student sits compared to the rest of the cohort. And the bigger that cohort is, if you're talking across an entire state or you're talking across a large cohort, the bigger it is, the harder it is to crunch those numbers. So we've built a system, if you jump on to the next slide. So we built a system with a couple of key attributes in it. Probably step number, most important is up the top, anonymized groups. We don't need to know all this data when we're running these reports. You can pass us through anonymized data, and we can just aggregate and group on that and return it back to you. It can be then delivered on the client side, and you can interpret that. So it's the number crunch, that's a really key piece.
We don't want to, nor do we need to know any personal identifiable information to do these reports, which just makes compliance for everyone a lot easier, and it's something it's huge accelerant.
And from that, it basically goes into our analysis engine and can come back. And there's two key ways it can come back out. One is out in reports like this, where you can see some of the box and whiskers. And we want to see that so that people can visualize it, see it, check the data, understand it, without having to build anything. They can use those natively in their system, and they're really good, solid, simple reports that can be customized. But they can also get the raw data out, and all of that raw data is available for use all the way through, so they can keep that. So it's, again, that giving access at every appropriate level.
There is a session with this later on, so you can go along to that if you want to hear more. All the sessions are being recorded, so if you can't go to the one you want, obviously you'll be able to see it on YouTube later on as well.
And this is something that we're seeing a lot of, where because we're getting the student data in and we have the item analysis, and we've seen this was a hard problem that every single SATs or any high stakes exam, this level of analysis is done, where you're looking at items and you want to understand how they perform. So it's been hard, costly and expensive, so it's not done in a lot of places, but we've built a report that is in limited preview at the moment. And if you just jump on, And so it allows you to actually see and understand this in near real time, where after 100 students have gone through, you're starting to see some data shape up. And the key one that this points out, this one on the left-hand side, is it's a good solid item bank, about 10,000 items, where it's got good broad coverage across everything. The one on the right-hand side has these ones down here where no one's getting those right. So if no one across everyone who's done it is getting it right, there's probably something wrong with the item. And in kind of our analysis, we've been able to point out and go, go and look at these 100 items and fix them. And inevitably, there's authoring errors or something small that there's no right answer to it. And similarly here in this particular item bank, there's just a lack of easy items in this item bank. So you can't, you're not assessing at those lower levels. And we also, over time, have done a lot of imports into the system. So we've had a lot of QTI, a lot of XML imports, and we've decided to make it easier for our customers to do that. So we've open sourced a library to do QTI import and export so that it can get stuff in. 150,000 items already in, so it's fairly robust and tested. But yeah, please get involved. And LTI is another kind of standard for linking into systems, and we're making this easier to link an activity, an assessment into any LTI compliant LMS without needing a developer. It's just making it simpler and allows you to have full reporting on it as well.
So we're trying to focus here and to be back to our mission. We love helping deliver great educational products, but we can't kind of do everything. We kind of feel that we need to focus on doing one thing and doing it extremely well. But because we do something well, we kind of get asked to do more a lot. We want to help you, but we don't want to lose our focus on this stuff. Content is something we get asked for a lot. Can you give me 10,000 questions in math or something else? And we kind of feel that content and tech are kind of different disciplines and are different skill sets. And you're a better man than I if you can do both. We're geeks, we're technology people, we focus on that, and we kind of want to do something that we can be 10 times better than anyone else at. We can be 10 times better at assessment than anyone else. It's a fact, but we can't kind of excel in that same way when it comes to content. And it's really not where our passion lies as well. But it is a real need, and you do kind of need help with that stuff. And so for that reason, we're really excited to launch our partner network that will help us do this without losing focus on what we do best. So they're delighted to announce our launch partners when it comes to content providers. There's nearly 400,000 items there available for you to license today via our partners. And that, again, helps you get to market quicker with a better product. The options before were to do that awful QTI import of an item bank and do a custom player for whatever they were giving you and so on. We've taken that pain on, and now it's a kind of flicking the switch to turn on those items. And that's Fluence. And they're kind of native TEIs that were actually written in Learnosity some time ago. KDS is Inspect Item Bank. Centrepoint, that's formerly known as Park Inc. Measure Progress, Houghton Mifflin Harcourt, and TE21's Case Item Bank. About 400,000 items there. Yeah. Also, we're also, one of the common things we get is we get asked to build entire solutions as opposed to the kind of Lego bricks or the APIs that we build. And we can't, be all things to all people. We don't want to be, do a poor job of a bunch of things. We want to do one thing really, really well. And so, but again, you mightn't have the dev team to build out what you need. You might need some help on that.
Or you might have limited resources in your dev team because they're busy focusing on other areas as well.
So, in terms of development partners, we have 4 we solidly recommend. They've all done successful implementations in Learnosity before. Some have done multiple ones, and we can provide intros at any point if you need any help with that.
And a key point across all of our partner components is we focus on people who do a good job. It's people who follow kind of the same principles as us of do it really well. So it's not just anybody sign up. It's we want people who deliver really good solutions.
We've kind of done, we've gone a mile deep and an inch wide on our functionality. It's, we talk about being a scalpel, not a Swiss Army knife, which is kind of a poor set of tools. We're a single function thing. There's other people out there who do stuff just as well as us in their own areas, their own specialist areas. And without us trying to focus, trying not to get distracted and trying to do all things for all people, we have some functionality partners as well. It makes it easy for you just to turn on these partners, go talk to them, get a license, turn them on, and it makes that really simple for you.
Yeah. And if you already have licenses for any of these, we're making it easier to just integrate and use those and make it more valuable for everybody.
And there will be more partners as you go along. If you have any suggestions about who we should speak to next, please do talk to us later on. So wrapping up, we've come a long way. The industry is expanding. We're building a better, faster, stronger product. We're accelerating when it comes to the R&D that we're doing, and we're staying focused and opening up that partner network as a result. 10 years in, it kind of feels like the start of episode 2, if we're going back to the Star Wars analogy, or episode 4, maybe, or 5.
It's going to be confusing very quickly.
Yeah, but we feel like we're just getting started, and again, we want to thank you for being here today and being part of that journey as we go along. We will be doing this at least once a year, and we'll talk about that later on. We do have a Q&A session later on at 4:40, where there's postcards on your seats. Please do write some questions down throughout the day and give them in to us. We'll be answering all those questions later on for any individual session or for ourselves, and then later on we'll go to the Playwright for a pint, well-deserved pint at the end of it. I'll be around all day. Please come and say hello. Mark is going to be busy doing about 4 sessions, but I got an easy job the rest of the day, so come and say hello.
Yeah. Thank you for coming along. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.